Hey everyone, it's me. Number 7, The Discovery. The discovery of the lost tomb of King Tutankhamun, or King Tut, in November of 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter sent shockwaves across the world. Tutankhamun had been an obscure pharaoh who ruled Egypt about 3,300 years ago. He was only 9 years old when he took the throne. His reign lasted for just 9 years before he died at the age of 18 or 19. Very little was known about him until his tomb was discovered in the Valley of the Kings near Luxor, also known as Thebes. The Daily Mail reported that when Carter first opened the entrance into the tomb, he found a flight of 40 steps leading down into darkness. At the bottom, there was another doorway with 2 guards. On the other side of this second door were scenes from the Book of the Dead depicting Osiris, the god of the underworld, and Nephthys, one of the 4 daughters of the sun god Ra. In front of the third and final doorway, Carter found this inscription, which read, "The pure of hands and of heart shall live. Oh, death is but a path to a new life." This gave way to the final chamber where the sarcophagus was located. When Carter looked inside, he could only see a boy wrapped in gold. According to Time magazine, he was dressed in a long white linen kilt and wore a blue wig, a necklace of lapis lazuli, and bracelets of gold on both wrists. Carter felt compelled to leave the treasures around the sarcophagus untouched overnight. He did not enter the tomb again until the following morning. On November, he carefully removed the bandages from the king's face, revealing the features of a young man, frail and thin, with a big head and small chin. Number 6, Strange Deaths. After the discovery of the tomb, there were several mysterious deaths that seemed to surround it. One was Lord Carnarvon, the British aristocrat who funded the dig. He fell ill with the Spanish flu soon after viewing the tomb and died shortly thereafter of the illness. There have been some rumors that he was bitten by a mosquito carrying the disease, but that has never been confirmed. Then there was Carter's friend and colleague, Archibald Douglas Reed. He was an Egyptologist who joined Carter on his dig after he heard about the discovery of the tomb. Reed was never actually inside the tomb itself. While standing next to the entrance on December 1922, he suddenly collapsed and died of a heart attack. Next was Sir Alan Houston, who was a member of the Egyptian Antiquities Service. He had gone to Cairo on government business related to the tomb when he died suddenly of a heart attack. There was also the case of George J. Gould, an American millionaire and avid collector of ancient artifacts. Gould traveled to Egypt to purchase a number of items from the dig, including the famous mask that King Tut was wearing when his tomb was discovered. Just 3 days after arriving in Cairo, he experienced chest pains, collapsed and died. Some believe that the so-called curse of the pharaohs may have claimed him. Then there was the case of John Taylor, an employee of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, who purchased several items from the tomb, including a bracelet. Taylor died of a heart attack just weeks after receiving the bracelet. And finally, there was the case of Mary Beatrice, who was the last person to die. She was the daughter of Italian consul general in Alexandria. She was engaged to an official working on preserving the tomb. She died aboard her ship on the Nile in 1923. Many believed she had drowned, but a lifeboat was scheduled for the same day that she died. It was cancelled for unknown reasons. When her body was exhumed, it showed signs of asphyxiation, leading many to believe that she was strangled. No. 5. The legend. In 1923, the sensationalist Sunday newspaper The Daily Mirror published a story claiming that Carnarvon had discovered a sealed wooden box inscribed with hieroglyphics while exploring the burial chamber. It was said that once the box was opened, the words, "Beware, the curse of the pharaohs is now upon you," appeared. Of course, it turned out that the inscription didn't say that at all. Instead, it said something about the afterlife and what the deceased pharaoh would need in order to have a comfortable journey. But the damage was already done. A few months later, the press picked up on the fact that Carnarvon and Carter's colleague, H.R. Orteson, had found a small clay figurine of a baboon holding a papyrus scroll with a strange symbol on it. This led to the belief that the symbol represented the Eye of Ra, the sun god. Supposedly, the pharaohs bestowed their royal power upon their eyes, and so anyone who dared take them would be cursed. The media ran wild with the story, and it was not long before people began talking about the curse of the pharaohs. According to legend, any person who disturbed the resting place of a pharaoh would be punished. It was said that curses placed on those who disturbed the tomb would bring them bad luck, illness, and even death. Newspapers around the world warned explorers to avoid disturbing the dead pharaohs. Number 4. The burial. The idea of cursing those who disturb a dead person as final resting place is common throughout history and is still practiced by some today. In ancient Egypt, the burial of a pharaoh was a very serious affair. There was a lot of importance placed on correctly interring the dead pharaoh. If they weren't buried properly, their soul wouldn't be able to rest. They would be doomed to wander the earth as an angry spirit, unable to move on to the afterlife. To make sure that the dead pharaoh's soul would be appeased, tombs were filled with goods and treasures that the deceased would need on their journey. Items like food, furniture, clothes, jewelry, boats, chariots, and servants were buried with the pharaoh so that they could be used in the afterlife. Sometimes entire villages were constructed near the tombs, so the workers who built them would have somewhere to live while they worked. Obviously, if someone broke into the tomb and stole these items, they would be stealing from the dead pharaoh. So it makes sense that the dead pharaoh might hold a grudge against them and possibly curse them. Number 3. Real or fake. The main reason people believed in the curse surrounding King Tut's tomb was because of the unexplainable deaths that happened after the discovery of the tomb. As we mentioned earlier, there were quite a few people involved with the discovery and subsequent investigation of the tomb that died under strange circumstances. Of course, correlation does not equal causation. These people likely died of natural causes, like the Spanish flu that swept through the world during the outbreak of World War I. There are some who say that the deaths could have been due to something called tomb syndrome. Tomb syndrome occurs when archaeologists excavate a tomb that's been sealed for hundreds or thousands of years. Once it's opened, mold, bacteria, and fungi can seep out and contaminate the air. Some of these microorganisms can cause fevers, respiratory problems, and even death, according to Smithsonian Magazine. There's no evidence that any of the people who died were exposed to dangerous fungi. Another explanation given for the unexplainable deaths was radiation poisoning. There was a rumor going round that King Tut's tomb contained radioactive elements like thorium dioxide, which could have caused the people around it to fall ill and eventually die. A scientist named Joyce Tildosley conducted tests on samples from the tomb and found that the walls of the tomb did contain trace amounts of radioactive elements. However, the amount was so tiny that it couldn't have killed anyone. 2. Pop culture. The legend of the curse of the pharaohs captivated the public imagination and became a mainstay of pop culture. It was featured in comic books, movies, television shows, and novels. One of the most notable examples of the curse of the pharaohs in pop culture is the movie The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser. In the film, Fraser's character Rick O'Connell steals a scroll from a cave which contains the Book of the Dead. After reading an incantation from the scroll, he inadvertently awakens an ancient mummy and unleashes a curse upon himself, his girlfriend, and his friend. The curse brings bad luck and death to those around the mummy, and it can only be stopped by returning the mummy to its tomb. Another example of the curse in pop culture is the TV show Supernatural. In the episode Grave of the Fireflies, the Winchester brothers investigate a series of unexplained deaths in a small town. They soon discover that the deaths are connected to a group of teenagers who stole a mummy from a museum. The mummy's curse is causing the deaths and can only be stopped by returning the mummy to its tomb. Number 1. Archaeology. Despite the legend of the curse of the pharaohs, archaeologists continue to explore and excavate ancient tombs. It's important to remember that these tombs are often the only way we have of learning about past civilizations. By studying them, we can learn about their customs, beliefs, and way of life. Some archaeologists even believe that the so-called curses are real. They say that when a tomb is opened, it disturbs the spirits within, and that this can bring bad luck to those involved in the excavation. However, there's no scientific evidence to support this claim. Most archaeologists dismiss the curses as superstition. They say that there is no evidence that exploring ancient tombs is any more dangerous than exploring other areas of the world. What do you think? Do you believe in the curse of the pharaohs? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye.